of mayonnaise. If you have Japanese mayo, it works really good. You can get that on Amazon. I was all out, so we're using regular mayo. 1 cup. All right, we're gonna use 1 cup of very finely chopped baby dill pickles. If you're wondering what that looks like, usually about 5 or 6. Now either don't try this at home or be sure to keep your fingers tucked. Keep your fingers out of the way and just keep chopping. Once you've got them about like this, now we can really start. All right, so once your pickles are chopped really fine, we're gonna put them in the mayo, and it's gonna look like about equal amounts. You can see there's about the same amount of pickle as there is mayo. Again, if you're measuring, we're shooting for about 1 cup. That turned out to be 5 small pickles chopped fine. To that, we're gonna add 1 tablespoon fresh dill. We're gonna pull the dill off of the big stalks. Just get these stem pieces out. No big deal. No pun intended there. Again, keeping our fingers out of the way. We're just gonna run that knife through there. And again, the same technique as before. And down. For that, we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of plain white sugar. We're gonna do a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Now, a real chef might say you're supposed to grind your own. This is already bought. 1/4 teaspoon black pepper. One teaspoon of fresh lemon juice. And if you don't know what that looks like, if you were to cut a lemon, not quite in half, it would be just the little bit smaller half, would be about your 1 teaspoon. What? Rest of the lemon for the fish. Now the last ingredient is simply by preference. If you like things a little bit of spicy or a little bit hotter, then you could add some basic cayenne. This is called a 6 chili powder. Anything you want to work, you could use. Just a little sprinkle for us. For our liking, we just like about that right there. And now we mix it all together. And this is our tartar sauce. Fresh, homemade tartar sauce, and it is worth the effort in making. So much better than what you buy out of a jar. Now you can make this ahead of time, and once it's made, just make sure you keep it in the fridge or keep it cool right up until the time you're ready to serve it. All right, so here's a little bonus for you. I said I'd give a little bonus. It's gonna be a fry sauce. So a lot of people think that fry sauce is just ketchup and mayo, but there's some things you can do that are really simple that'll make it a whole lot better. So we're gonna start out with some mayo. And we're not gonna measure this. What we're gonna do is eyeball our fry sauce on the color. So we add some mayo. We are gonna add a little bit of ketchup, just like that, right in the center. Now here are some of the secret ingredients that's gonna make ours better than others. White vinegar. Splash of white vinegar for the acidity. Black pepper. Just do that to your taste. There's no measured amount here, just to your taste. And our last secret ingredient is gonna be good old sriracha. Just a little punch of that. And we're gonna mix it all together. Now, as you can see, that mayo, that fry sauce is a little bit light. No big deal. We're just gonna add a little extra ketchup. Again, that was gross. We're gonna base our ingredient measurements on color. Now that's a fry sauce. See, if you only do ketchup and mayo, it's gonna be too thick. That vinegar helped thin this out. Got a good color, good consistency, and we're gonna throw that into the fridge along with our tartar sauce. All right, so here's the star of the show, Albacore Tuna. Now, I know most of you don't identify as tuna being good for fish and chips. If you're from the Pacific Northwest, you understand what everybody else is missing out on. It's a good, hearty, white meat fish. So many people are used to having it in a can, they don't understand how good it is fresh, and we catch a lot of it. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take our bag of albacore tuna. Very first thing we're gonna do is pull it out of our bag and dry it off. I like to wrap it in some paper towels, just like this. We're gonna wrap it in these paper towels just to get any excess moisture off. The drier fish we can use when we start frying, the crispier we're gonna be. Ready? All right, so we're gonna cut these pieces basically into medallions. We're gonna go on that end. I like them about finger width. You can just kind of eyeball that. And one good cut with a good sharp knife will make us some medallions. So a little tip, when you get them on the tray, to keep them firm, you don't want these warming up in the air. So I like to throw them in the freezer while we make the batter and while the oil's heating up. So let's heat up our oil. We're gonna start our oil at 325 degrees. Now the fish is actually gonna be at 375, but we're gonna do the fries first, and we do our first fry on the fries at 325. If you don't have a deep fryer, you can do this in a frying pan. You're still gonna wanna aim for about the same temperatures. Now, a deep fryer like this, I think I got this on sale, it was 50 bucks. So if you don't have a deep fryer or don't want to use that much oil, then you can still do it in the pan. Just make sure you try to reach the same temperatures. Now, something that I see happen, when people do it in a pan, they make a mistake. What that mistake is they use basically a candy thermometer like this. You know, you've got one that you got from your grandma. But what happens is people go out there and they start their oil, they put this in and they say, well, we're gonna get that oil to 325. Well, as soon as it reaches 325, they assume it's gonna stay there. No, that oil's still rising, so you might burn your food. What you wanna do is put it in there and start your stovetop slow and let it gradually work up to that 325. Don't let it speed past. All right, we're gonna use good old-fashioned russet potatoes. There's gonna be people that say you should use different fancy potatoes. I like a good old-fashioned russet. Here's what we're gonna do with them. Come on close. We're gonna cut off the ends. And a lot of people are gonna say you should peel these potatoes. I don't know about you, but I don't have time for that. So what I will do though, is I'm gonna cut them square on each side. Just shave a little bit off. So you're not wasting anything, but at the same time, it's gonna make it easier to cut. And for somebody that doesn't like a lot of peel, they're gonna have very little. But let's live with this. So I cut them 4 ways that way, turn it over each half like that. And I like big, thick plank fries. So we're gonna take those, we're gonna throw them in our bowl. Take this, we're gonna throw it in the bowl. All right, so we're gonna take these potatoes over. We're gonna put them in some water, just some good cold water, and we're gonna let them start removing the starch. If you look at that water, see how it's cloudy? We're gonna let these potatoes sit in that cold water for a little while and just start giving out some of the starch so they get a little bit crispier when we fry them. Okay, so here's a little bonus. Traditional fish and chips are obviously our plank fries that we talked about. On this channel, we just do anything that's tasty. So if you've got a bag of these small potatoes, we're gonna boil them. So just throw some of these potatoes in boiling water. Be very careful, keep them away. And we're gonna boil them until they're just a little bit tender with a fork. And then we'll show you what we do from there. Because our fryer isn't gonna fit all of the fish and all of the chips at the same time, the little tip for you is start your oven, turn on your oven to bake, 250 degrees, start it up. Because when the fries come out of the fryer, we're gonna throw those in the oven while we put the fish in the fryer. So our oil is heated up to 325. The fries have been soaking. We're gonna just drain these. Shake them off good. Let's throw them onto a paper towel just to dry them out as best we can. All right, so we're gonna throw these in the basket. these fries are just starting to change color, just barely. Come in here and take a look at these. They've just barely started to change color. We're gonna let them rest and cool down. Meanwhile, we're gonna crank our oil up to 375 to get ready for the second fry. Okay, so our potatoes have been in there for 12 or 15 minutes. They're just getting tender to where I poke them with a knife and it goes in. A little bit of resistance, but not a lot. Those potatoes are ready to be drained. So we're gonna drain these potatoes, run them through a strainer. Careful not to splash. Just to cool them down a little bit. And we're gonna dump those on our paper towel and we're gonna let them cool down. So we're gonna take a fork and we're gonna smash these a little bit. So you can use your fingers on the side so they don't explode. And just smash them down like this a little bit. Now look at these potatoes. Look at all these edges. All of those bumps, all those edges are gonna be delicious when we fry them. All of that's gonna be crispy surface area. So our oil is back up to temperature, 375 degrees. We're gonna drop these fries down for their second fry. There we go. All right, so we've got a good color on our fries. We're gonna shake them off. We're gonna throw them into our pan. And you want to season these immediately when they come out of the fry. Now, I like using coarse kosher salt instead of table salt. Table salt is a lot finer. I like some good chunkier salt. And so we're using coarse, toss it around, a little more seasoning. It's important to season it while it's hot right out of the fryer. That way you get most of the stick. We're gonna come over here, we're gonna put that on our pan, just like that. These paper towels will be in the oven because we're only at 250. Put that in and keep those warm and keep them crispy while we work on the fish. All right, so here we go with the bonus potatoes. Like I said before, these are not traditional fish and chips. These are not traditional fish and chips here. These are not traditional chips. These are not traditional chips, but they're delicious. Now, these are a little bit fragile, so you got to be careful picking them up so they don't just crumble. We're going to put them in here. Kind of baby them in. And drop them down. There we go. Oh, come on, look at that. All of those crispy edges, all those craggly edges, that's gonna be crispy deliciousness. All right, so our potatoes are done. Look at those things. All those crispy edges. And again, we're gonna go right into our bowl. And you guessed it, we are gonna season them immediately with some kosher salt. Toss those around, not as much because we don't want to break them up. And we're going to add these to what we have in the oven. Pull it out and let's get these on. We're going to kind of mix and match. That might not look pretty, but this channel is all about taste. I'm starting out with a cream ale, and I'm going to put this in the bowl very first. I'm gonna use about 3/4 of that beer. Along with the beer, I'm gonna put some garlic powder. Now, I'm not gonna measure this because I've done it a lot of times. If you are, I'm gonna say about 1/4 teaspoon. We're just gonna put that right on top. Good shakes of that. Maybe even less than 1/4 teaspoon, try an 1/8. We're gonna do a little pinch of salt. Gonna use some black pepper. Again, I'm not measuring this. If I was, I would probably go about an 1/8 teaspoon at most. Gonna use some paprika because I like the color it gives. Now here is where a professional chef is gonna pull out a sifter. They're gonna put their flour in the sifter. They're gonna sift that in. They're gonna pour beer in slow, and they're gonna try to aerate it as much as they can. This channel is about simplicity, and if you can do that and do this side by side and taste the difference, you're better off than I am. So we're gonna add about a cup of flour. So we're just gonna add the flour with one hand, and I'm gonna start whisking with the other. And I'm just gonna get that flour in there. Now, as you can see, it's gonna be too thick right there. So I always like to start out, I'd rather have it too thick at the start rather than not thick enough. Either way you can adjust. If it's too thick like this, we still got a little bit of our leftover beer. That's gonna go in there. And the consistency that we're looking for, I like it just a little bit thicker than paint. So if you look at this coming off this, you see it falling in. I like it to be a little bit thicker than paint. Now you saw what happened when it was too thick. We just added a little bit of beer. Well, what if it's too thin? Then we just add a little bit of flour. If you're not going to use this batter right away, make sure you throw it in the refrigerator. What you don't want to do is let the batter heat up too much. It will just tend to run off the fish or make it soggy before you throw it in the fryer. Fish is coming out of the freezer. It's certainly not frozen. It's just a little bit cold to the touch, which just helps it firm up a little bit. The other thing you realize, if you've ever cooked tuna, you never want to overcook tuna. And since we're gonna fry it, we want a good crispy brown edge on the batter, but we don't want to overcook the fish. By cooling this fish down a little bit will help achieve that. Okay, so here's my tip. We've got some basic wooden skewers. And what I like to do with these pieces of fish is I like to skewer them on, kind of going against the grain so it'll hold them in place. And I want to put 2 or maybe even 3 of these onto a skewer. Give a little space in between, and I'll show you why as we go. Yep. Now you're probably thinking, why in the world would he skewer those when we still haven't battered them or put them in the fryer? Come on in, it goes like this. So we're gonna take a piece and we're gonna batter it. We're gonna dredge it through there. Let it drain just a little bit. Now, here's the key. When you put this in the oil, you don't wanna just drop it down because that batter is gonna stick in the grates of that basket. So we wanna let it get just a little bit of oil till that batter firms up. Now here's the tip with the skewers. Put the skewers here and just slide that off. And then what do? We slide this one down, go into the batter, and we do the exact same thing. Again, we're keeping it off of those grates. Gonna let it firm up just for a couple of seconds. And there's our technique. Now it's crucial to not overcrowd the fryer. The more fish and cold items you put into that oil, the more it's gonna cool down and gotta reheat. So a lot of times if you've ever had soggy fish and chips, what caused that? Probably because their oil wasn't hot enough when they put the fish in. All right, so these are golden brown and ready to go. Shake them off a little bit. Look at those. Beautiful. We're gonna throw down a little kosher salt. Toss them around. Look at those. Beautiful. So we're gonna put them on a rack with a paper towel and let them dry for a minute. Come on over here. We're gonna grab out these fries. Look at how good those are looking. So I got these baskets on Amazon. These are good, authentic, retro baskets. A 6-pack of these baskets with 60 of these liners runs you 13 bucks. I'm gonna throw a few of our fries into a basket first. We're gonna come over here and grab a few of our pieces of fish. Doing it with my hands. Why? Because we're gonna be the ones eating it. So we don't need buffer. We're gonna come on over. Now let's get in the fridge and grab our sauces. You remember we made the homemade tartar sauce and the homemade fry sauce. I'm gonna start with throwing a little bit of this sriracha fry sauce into a cup. And some of our homemade tartar sauce. We're going to take our lemon that we used before, cut a couple of wedges, throw that on there. And that right there is our homemade Albacore fish and chips. Practical at-home cooking. Look at that. We're gonna go with some of our homemade tartar sauce. Thick. Look at that. Tastes amazing. Good fresh tartar sauce, good crispy fish, and practical to make at home. And look at these crispy smashed mini potatoes. These are delicious. Make those. Hope you enjoyed the video.